everybody. Welcome back to Alan Wall's Photography. I am Alan. I'm going on a little adventure. So for a change, we have an absolutely glorious day. It's been rough around here for a couple of weeks, but now it's absolutely gorgeous. A little bit windy, but it's nice and warm outside. And I just decided to ignore all the work I'm supposed to be doing and go out and hunt jumping spiders. Yeah, I'm going to take you to a place that I've never taken you before. So here's the deal. I thought it was so pretty and the sun was out and it was a Monday, so it'll be quiet where I'm going. It'll be a great time to go for a walk down at one of my favorite little nature spots around here. But I love to go there because it's so very quiet, and I always seem to find a lot of really cool jumping spiders down there. They're all over the place up here anyway, but in this particular boardwalk, even when the weather's a bit chilly like it is now, if there's some sun out, generally these spiders are out too. So we have arrived at my destination, and there's a couple of ragamuffins down in the swampy part, which is actually where I go to hunt for water moccasins. So I hope they're safe. But anyway, you can see what a gorgeous place this is. You normally can't see any of this stuff like the houses around the outside because the foliage is so dense. But not today. This is the dead of winter in the deep south, which means it's never gets above 70 in the winter. So it appears that our little friends down in the crevasse are being parented. That's wonderful. Excellent. Well, I'll leave them alone. Now the reason that this type of habitat appeals to me is because I don't think the jumping spiders are any more common down here. It's just that they're easier to find because they stick out like a sore thumb on all of these wooden handrails and what have you. So generally what I do is just stroll up and down this, and there's a beach at the bottom, so there's some seaside if you're interested in seeing that. But anyway, let's see what I can find. So here we are on the beach. I hope you can even hear me. It's rather windier than I expected, and there are tons of people here, which is also unexpected on a Monday afternoon. So as you can see, it's very bright. It's quite cool. And it's very breezy. I didn't see a solitary spider on the way down here, but these two children who are playing around down here and making a fiendish amount of noise, which is fine. And I don't even know if jumping spiders have ears to be scared off. But I didn't see any. I'm going to keep walking along here for a while, see what I can find. There's usually all manner of bugs down here all summer long, but let's see what I can find. Well, I had to decide whether to grab for my camera or grab for the phone, but there is a pair of ospreys flying over me. I hope they're going to come back around again. They're just cruising up there. I'll keep an eye out for them. Well, it is an absolutely stunning day out here. And I guess it's a good example of how I feel about macro photography out in the field. It is so pleasurable to be out here that grabbing that, excuse me, I'm going underneath a thing, grabbing that once in a lifetime photograph doesn't seem terribly important out here, which is good because there are no living organisms on this beach apparently. I've seen some ants and an anole lizard and what else? A wasp and a fly. So we'll give it a little bit more time. I think maybe the noisy children have gone home. I do hope so, because I'm going to go back to the boardwalk place and concentrate my effort there, because that's usually where I find what I'm looking for. So I'll wander back over that way and see what we can get. Have you ever wondered why jumping spiders are so well loved by people who hate insects and other creepy crawlies? It's very strange. My theory is that it's because of their eyes. You know, most of the species around here have you know, the usual full complement of whatever it is, 8 eyes, but the 2 forward-looking eyes on the front of their head are usually gigantic compared to the others, and they're usually dark and shiny, and for some reason I think they make people think that these things are cute and they'd like to get to know them. The fact is, jumping spiders are among the most vicious predators. I'm constantly amazed when I'll see somebody posting a picture of a jumping spider on the internet, and it'll you know, the jumping spider will be hugging a smaller jumping spider. They'll be held in a loving embrace. Of course, the bigger jumping spider is actually eating the other jumping spider. That's a main part of their diet, is jumping spiders. Even their own jumping spiders, even their own baby jumping spiders. So, yeah, they're really not at all what people think they are. But I mean, even knowing all that, I'm still fascinated by them and drawn to them. What's really strange is that I know a lot about how human brains respond to things at a subconscious level, and why we find some things revolting and some things terrifying and some things warm and cuddly, like jumping spiders. So I understand that my brain is tricking me, but I still find them very appealing, and I love to photograph them. I think one of the main reasons I do like to photograph them is compared to other insects and well, other arthropods, let's say, and with the possible exception of dragonflies, there are few subjects in the macro world that are going to be as patient with a photographer. Uh, they they appear to pose. I know, of course, they don't have a posing nucleus in their brain, but they'll get right in the perfect spot and they'll hold up their front legs and wave them at you like a long lost friend. Of course, what they're doing is sizing you up to see if they could possibly eat you. And thank goodness I've never run into one big enough to think that they could. But still, I find them absolutely fascinating. They're so photogenic, and people love looking at pictures of them. So I love taking pictures of them. Anyway, haven't seen a solitary jumping spider down here. I don't know why. This is perfectly okay weather for them. It has been cold a few nights lately. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Oh, there's another anole. Let me see if I can get a picture of this one. I'm heading back to the boardwalk. So it's nice and quiet up here on the boardwalk. Not finding a tremendous amount to photograph, but that's really okay. It was all about getting out and enjoying the afternoon, because that is, to me, 90% of outdoor macro photography. It's just good fun to come out here. It's much busier than I expected. I haven't given up on finding some spiders. I just picked a bad day to let my videography team have a day off. I should have kept at least 7 of them to help me work on this video. I'm using my Joby stand, something I normally don't like, but it's really good in the wild for hanging my phone on trees and things. But anyhow, hey, I updated my flash diffuser. I was not happy with the consistency of the flash using the plastic diffusers that I had. So all I did was take a couple of sheets of high quality tracing paper, cut out the shape of the end of my device and stuck it on there with pins. It doesn't look like much, but honestly, it holds the diffuser in perfect position, and changing it is instantaneous. So I've got some different grades of tracing paper in my camera bag, and I can just go with more or less in an instant. So I just wish I had something to photograph with it, but I was waiting for the last batch of revelers, of holiday makers, to walk past me on this boardwalk, and they just left, going back to the car park. So I think I may have the last hour of sunlight to myself, and this is usually a good time. When I come out here not knowing where I'm going to be focusing, not knowing necessarily what I'm going to shoot, but I just bring one lens, a macro lens, usually I will mount a speed light on my camera, use one of my diffuser boxes or any number of other diffusion things I've got that I sometimes pull out to try. I usually take the lens hood off the macro. This is my Tamron 90mm f2.8. I really love this lens. It's very good. And I normally leave the flash off because a great many pictures on a day like today, I'm not going to need any light. I'm going to get beautiful natural light most of the time. Not now, though. Now, as we're within an hour of sunset and I'm up on the boardwalk, this is, even in winter, is heavily covered with foliage. So I'm not really going to be able to. I don't like to shoot with a high ISO when I'm doing macros, so I'll turn the flash on, and I'll still use as little as I possibly can, just to give me that uh, added advantage of not having to shoot at high ISO. But anyway, there's nothing different or unusual about it. I think that there is technique that comes into play when you're doing macro shooting, and I think it can be summarized in one word, and that is, well, let's try two words: slow and patient. Um, all, some of the very best photographs I've ever got of the macro world came from sitting in a bush and waiting for things to come crawling to me. It takes a tremendous amount of patience on a day when not much is going on, but it really does work. The, the insect world is so vast. There are so many insects everywhere. And one of the main reasons we might not see them is because we're moving too fast. So, this kind of speculative macro photography, I just get out to enjoy the day, and I move very, very slowly, and I pause a lot, and I just pay attention. After a while, even the tiniest moving things will grab the corner of your eye. And then once they do, approach them really slowly. I normally will, if I see, for example, a jumping spider, I will I will get the shot framed from as far away as I see the guy show up. So I will frame the shot. I'll get him where I want him in the frame. I'll get my camera settings checked. I'll make sure the flash is where I want it. And then, never taking the subject out of the frame, I will inch forward just one slow step at a time, until I'm right on him or he dashes off. But doing that, they don't seem to startle nearly as much, and you can get tremendously close sometimes before um, before they dash off. This camera, this lens, I mean, has a really almost uncomfortably long working distance for me. I'm so used to shooting with reversed enlarger lenses and other lens combinations where the working distance is millimeters. This thing's working distance is a few inches, and it's hard for me to stay outside of the minimum focal length sometimes. So that's another thing to bear in mind. Get comfortable with how close you can get. Obviously, I want to fill the frame, but when you're talking about an insect that's teeny tiny, you can't get close enough to fill the frame, and you're going to end up having to do some cropping. But anyway, that's how I believe that you're going to get the most successful trips out, is to go super slow. I did a video, or I think it might have been a blog post on my website, where I spent an entire afternoon doing macro photography on one block of concrete in a park near where I live. It was just an old, well, it wasn't even concrete, it was just stone. It was a block of stone. And I did not leave that block of stone. I kept going around it one short step at a time. And I must have shot 30 species on that one stone over a period of a couple of hours. So there's a lot of advantage to just taking your time and letting the good stuff come to you. Anyway, I am going to wander up to my car. It's only a quarter of a mile from here, but on the way, I may take an hour to get back to the car, but I'm really keen now to see some jumping spiders, seeing as I've been talking about them. Let's see what we can find. I was at the top of the boardwalk, but I saw a piece of bark sitting on the path, And I'm going to have to get home and check in my books to find out whether this is a crab or a spider or a spider crab or a crab spider. Looks like a spider. Very strange looking thing. I got some nice pictures of him. As I was wandering back, I had a rare, serious thought. And I was wondering to myself, what exactly is it that makes a good afternoon of macro photography? And I had the realization that it's not pictures. I mean, that's a bonus. It's wonderful to come home with a couple of really good pictures. I love that. It's definitely not why I do it though. I think the real magic of macro photography for me, maybe it's just the way I do it, but as I've told you before, I just slow way down and focus on the here and now within an arm's length of where I am. And after a while, my whole universe shrinks down to an arm's reach around me. It's the peace and the opportunity to get lost in something. I think that people who meditate talk about getting lost in the moment or getting so engaged with what's going on that the rest of the world kind of fades away into unimportance. That's what macro photography is for me. But anyway, I did get some nice pictures of things I don't know what they are. So when I get home, I'll look them up and then I'll tell you what they are and sound. I'll say it in a way that sounds like I knew that all along. Didn't you know that? When I get home, I'm going to process these pictures and put them up in the video so that you can see what I found in the last little bit of my trip. I'm glad you came along. I really I should do this more often. I find it the most authentic way to involve the community in how much I love photography is to do stuff like this, because after all, that's what we're in it for. The other stuff's important too, the tutorial type stuff, but really having you come with me on an outing is really powerful. All right, I'll see you when I get home. Well, I finally made it home, got all of these pictures edited and cleaned up, and let me show you what all I found on our little trip. The first few photographs are from the beach because I only found one ant, which is unusual. But I got some really nice pictures of this little red worker ant. He was very busily moving one grain of sand about a foot to the left and then picking it up and taking it back to where he got it from. I couldn't not make any sense of what he was doing. But he paused between picking up each grain of sand so I could get a good look at him. And some of these pictures are nice. If you've got a big screen, you'll see what I'm talking about. The next thing I came across was this alkali bee. I think that's what it is. I see these things around here quite a lot. And they're often eating caterpillars when I see them. But this guy looked confused and bewildered as to why he was out in the middle of winter. So there you go. I couldn't get close to him. He was very finicky and always dashing off. I found this little flying ant, I'm going to guess, or flying termite, or flying something. A tiny insect. He's only 1.5 millimeters long on the boardwalk. Took a picture and then he flew off. So I don't really know what that is. That's a nail, but I was convinced it was some kind of an insect until I got up close to it. But it is a pretty nail, so I kept it as a texture. And let me see what else. I have no idea what this beetle is. It is a millimeter long. It's on the back of a magnolia leaf. It appears to be covered in dust or something, but when I look really closely, it's hairs, little hairs growing out of it. So I'm going to say that that's a hairy beetle. Then I'll figure out later on if they actually exist. But he was tiny and moving fast as well. I came across this and I thought it was nothing. I thought it was just a piece of bark, and then it moved. So it's almost certainly a lacewing larva. And when I zoomed in real close and got a very tight look at the pile of garbage on its back, I did notice what appears to be a shriveled up, dehydrated spider corpse, which would be very typical of a lacewing. That's the kind of stuff he makes his house out of. So what else? Oh yeah, this is probably a bit uncalled for, but when I was walking up the boardwalk, I found a dead fly sitting on the handrail. It's one of the what is it, a taconid fly that we have around here, real bristly, ugly thing. But I hadn't had a close macro look at a dead fly in a while, so I got several pictures of him. Here you can see his face was in a nice focus, and got a fairly decent look at his anatomy. You'll notice though that his head is on backwards. I didn't do any of this. I mean, he came to me like this, but his head's pointing in the wrong direction, which may be a clue as to why he's a dead fly. And if that clue wasn't enough, I had a look at his eyeball, and it looks like it has also been caved in. So anyway, I thought it was quite fascinating, and I'm really thrilled with the quality of the pictures I'm getting out of that 90 millimeter Tamron lens. Does a great job with detail. Anyway, so the next find was about the most exciting find of the day. It was on the underside of a piece of bark, and it looked like just a tiny orange dot. But when I zoomed in close and got a couple of good pictures of him, it is in fact a pseudoscorpion. And I'm not sure I've ever actually seen one of those down here before, but that's what he is. He's not a real scorpion. He's a chenetid, whatever that is, but looks like a scorpion except for his rotund abdomen there. I thought this was really cute. I kept it as a texture that I might want to use. It's I don't know what it is, honestly. It's sitting in a cleft in some tree bark, and it's a perfect sphere with nothing in it. Probably some kind of seed pod or other. I don't know, but I thought it made a nice, pretty picture. This I've already shown you. This in fact is a crab spider. I wasn't quite sure what I was looking at. And again, if you've got a big screen, look at its eyes real close and you probably won't sleep tonight. Terrifying looking face on that thing. But that's what it is. It's a crab spider. The next thing, you can see my thumb in this picture. I honestly did not think this was anything other than a seed. I mean, it was just too small to be anything that I would recognize. But again, when I zoomed in, I got this really cool picture of what looks like a baby spider, but I think it might be a spider beetle, one of the mimics. I'm really not sure. I'll have to do some more research on that. There were just a couple of others here. So when I got back to my car, this guy was on the windowsill. I think this is a marsh fly. I can't be sure. It might just be another taconid fly, but it looks like a marsh fly. This was the weirdest find. I was going inch by inch over a tree looking for things crawling around on it, and something unusual caught my eye. This was a bit taller than I could reach with my hand, but it looked like a dollar bill stuffed in a tree. And why do people do that? I mean, I have no idea what that dollar bill was doing there. I spent the rest of the evening trying to figure out if this is some weird ritual or other. But no, it was just a piece of a bill, and I don't know whether it was $100 bill or a $1 bill, and I have no idea what it was doing tucked inside a tree. Somebody maybe was trying to pay the tree for something. I have no idea. Very, very weird. Well, the last thing that I came across was probably, to me, the biggest find of the day, because I'd spent all day looking for them, was what I can only think is a hibernating jumping spider. If you look close, you'll see he's completely enshrouded in silk. He's in a kind of like a cocoon. It covers him completely, and this guy did not move. And of course, he can't close his eyes even if he's asleep because he doesn't have eyelids. I think this is a Phidippus jumping spider based on that white splash on his front legs. They're what they use to wave at you and get your attention. But anyway, I was thrilled to have found at least one jumping spider, even if he was less than a millimeter long and probably asleep. I want to show you just one other picture that I took while we were down on the beach. This was the second time that the pair of ospreys flew over, and I got a slightly better look at the male. And he was flying along, making slow headway into the wind. But I noticed he had this fish in his talons, and I thought it was a pretty cool photograph from 100 and something yards away with a 90mm macro lens. But you can see his supper there dangling from his talons. That was a cool thing to see. Well, thanks very much for coming with me. I thoroughly enjoyed the afternoon. I hope you got some pleasure out of the video. If not, there'll be something completely different to amuse you soon. I don't know what it is yet. It's been a busy few days, but I'll be back before you know it. Check out alanwallsphotography.com if you want to see any more of my macro photography or anything else at all. I've probably written something about it on my blog page. All right, I'll see you in a few days. Take care. Cheerio.